In The Sopranos, New Jersey mafia boss Tony Soprano must deal with unseemly underworld characters, not limited to his child-killing animal of a cousin, a Charles Manson impersonator, and the Persian monarch Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. But given he is also a businessman, Tony also has dealings with people in the legitimate world, one of whom is Assemblyman Ronald Zellman. There was a proud Newarker. Zellman was vital in securing the Esplanade construction contract, which proved lucrative for both the New Jersey and New York crew, so much so that Lupertazzi boss Carmine Sr. refuses to have Ralph Cifaretto whacked at the behest of his furious underboss, for fear of losing the millions of dollars that were at stake. Along with African-American activist Maurice Tiffin, Zellman is also involved in a scam to defraud the US Department of Housing and Urban Development in the episode Watching Too Much Television. It's here where the Assemblyman sheepishly informs Tony that he is seeing Tony's former mistress, Irina. Irina is a beautiful but needy and slightly unstable woman who Tony was with for a few years before Tony ends the relationship, advising Irina to settle down with a long-term partner, leading Irina to try and off herself. Zellman tells Tony that he and Irina are serious, that he cares for her deeply. Tony seems okay with it. Given his nature, you might think he would get angry. Certainly, Zellman must have suspected this, which is why he went to Tony and told him up front. But Tony seems cool, plays it as not really caring, and wishing them all the best. There's no lingering shot of him breathing heavily or anything, looking mad. But no one knows what the future holds, my friend. The song Oh Girl by Chi Light then comes on in the dressing room the guys are in. Later, when Tony goes over to Zellman's home, he sees Irina, and the two exchange slightly awkward greetings. Then, at the end of the episode, the same song starts playing on the radio. Tony sings along, and it appears to trigger something in him, causing him to become teary-eyed and emotional and turn the car around and head over to Zellman's. Irina opens the door. He goes past her into the bedroom where a Zellman in his underwear is perplexed to see him. Tony then takes off his belt and proceeds to give the Assemblyman a humiliating whooping, adding, "All the girls in Jersey and you had to fuck this one." He's an emotional man, loves his gumars. Irina is shocked, but momentarily she looks like she's swept off her feet and is going to cream her pants and go after Tony. Tony gives her one last caress over the face as he walks out with the song still playing. It's all got a very rebel without a cause Hollywood feel to it. Tony the alpha male punishing Zellman's foolish mistake in going after his girl. And it's something I wanted to take a closer look at in this video to delve deeper into Tony's psyche and thinking behind this act. All the early access member only videos and I had to upload this one. Zellman's quite an interesting character when you think about it. The episode suggests that he and Maurice were once idealist and upright citizens but have been worn down by the system and are now content with being corrupt cynics. It seems like the duo are characters that walked off the set of The Wire. "We were going to lead a revolution, Maurice," as Zellman says. It's interesting that the Newark race riots are brought up and about how Maurice fought for his people back in the day. Given how the current scam is essentially going to be screwing over poor black people, you might think that the show is setting up a plotline here for Maurice to start feeling guilty about what he's doing, selling out his own people, even sending in goons to attack squatters and scare them out of the homes. Interestingly though, it's Zellman who ends up feeling guilt-ridden after being approached by a black youth who asks him if there's going to be nice homes made here now. Zellman offers his thoughts to Maurice, and the show actually foreshadows his eventual whipping, with him saying, "Thing about guys like Tony Soprano, you don't mess with these people." Yet it's he who messes with Tony's former gumar, and later he also says, "Sometimes I feel like I should be punished." And punished he of course is, with the show cruelly giving an embarrassing beatdown to the one character who actually had a conscience about what they were doing here. It's probably a stretch to suggest that because of his guilt-ridden demons, Zellman subconsciously manufactured a situation that resulted in him getting beaten by Tony because he wanted to be punished for his sins. But it's fun to speculate. Since he's the only character involved in the scam who was guilty and gets beaten up, perhaps it's his guilt that he's being punished for, and the show is telling us only the ugliest, most selfish of characters can thrive in the world of The Sopranos. There's no room for guilt here. I honestly think this act is up there with Tony's very worst moments on the show, and it isn't brought up enough. It's one of his most unstable, insecure, and narcissistic moments. What better example do you need that he is a selfish, egocentric, petty, jealous man with little impulse control, who thinks everything is his, even when he doesn't want it anymore? How much did he push Irina away, tell her to settle down with a man, and yet he acts like a possessive and volatile ex here? He's like a dog with two bones. Zellman came to him straight up, man to man, and Tony gave his blessings. Not that Zellman needed it. After all, she was not related to him by blood nor by marriage. She was a hooer. Tony's also put his business with the Assemblyman at risk here. Imagine if Carmine Sr. found out. A Don doesn't whip half-naked Assemblyman, he would say. The man was a fantastic asset and the reason they were making so much money with the Esplanade, and it could all have ended here. However, it is suggested that they continue to have some kind of business relationship after this, as Zellman manages to get AJ released without charge after his pathetic attempt to take out Junior. So either they made up and Tony paid him off, or Zellman did it out of fear of another whooping. Either way, Zellman eventually dumps Irina, as after the beating, he was no longer able to function as a man. There is some recompense in all this. Most expensive piece of ass Tony ever beat, as the saga would have no doubt played a part in Irina calling Mrs. Sopranos after she finds out Tony was sleeping with her one-legged cousin, which ignites the famous Whitecaps argument, Carmela filing for divorce, and causes the Sopranos to lose out on the Whitecaps' home. It's something, I guess. As bad as the beatdown is, in the original script it was even worse, with Tony forcing Zellman's underwear off. That's deplorable. The reason we don't see this is because the actor was uncomfortable doing this and James Gandolfini backed him up on it, so Chase compromised. As Peter Reigert said on the Talking Sopranos podcast,
nobody got the script in advance as far as I knew. Maybe Gandolfini did. But I think most of us didn't know. Is that right? Until we read.
If you were a series regular, you got it.
Okay.
Everybody else, I think it was on a need-to-know basis, kind of.
Right.
You know.
So anyway, so I would show up and read and find out what I was doing. And the sixth episode was me getting, Tony beating the living shit out of me with a belt. But in the scene description, it's written that he pulls my underwear off. So we did this whole table read. And I was not happy about that. And I was just sitting there by myself. And Jim came over and he said, how do you feel about this? I said, I got to be honest with you, man. I don't think you have to humiliate an actor to humiliate a character. And I'm a little
nobody
upset
would want to do that.
No,
nobody would.
And
so it was that he pulled your underwear down and spanked your ass. It wasn't.
It was I was going to be naked.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, I would have liked a heads up on that. And David, who's always been nice, and I couldn't say more complimentary things for what he created, but that one really caught me off guard. And James said, he came over, he said, how are you with this? And I said, I'm not happy about this. And he called David over and he explained what I was feeling. And David said, well, that's the way I wrote the scene. And I said, David, I think I can act the shit out of this part. And I promise you the audience will be horrified by what they see. But you don't have to humiliate me for me to get this across. And David said, well, okay. And he left. And I didn't know whether I was going to get fired or not, but Jimmy said to me, whatever you decide to do, I'll back you. I can't do it for you, but whatever you decide to do, I promise you, I will have your back. And I said, okay. And I knew that I was not going to take my underwear off, and Jimmy wasn't going to rip them off either. And then the director, who was
John Patterson, very sweet guy,
and he tried to convince me, and I said, John, I can't do it. I can't do it. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a problem, but this is too upsetting to me.
I'm not quite sure on Reigert's reasoning. After all, it's the character being humiliated here, not the actor. Then again, it's not me being asked to be butt naked with James Gandolfini ravaging at my boxers in front of respected actors and a dozen TV crew members. He was gay, Tony Soprano? You know, I wonder. The Sopranos scripts were infamous for no changes being allowed without David Chase's permission. Could it be, seeing as though we never see Reigert on the show again, that Chase was angry at Reigert's decision, but he couldn't do much about it because he had Gandolfini's backing, so Chase did the next best punishment and just didn't invite Reigert back on the show? Who knows? Maybe the whipping was supposed to be the start of a new subplot with more involvement for Zellman, but Chase dropped the plans after this incident. Conspiracy theories now? There's many factors to Tony choosing to beat Zellman, all related to his insecure ego. The most obvious answer is that Tony considered this a property trespass, that Irina was his even if he had let her go. Like Danny Baldwin says in Christopher's film, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. When Tony meets Irina at Zellman's home, it's established he's paying for her to take English lessons. Really, it's this scene where Tony actually sees Irina that there's a change in his demeanour to the whole thing. Zellman has, in a sense, got one over Tony. Not only has he taken his old girl, but he's taken care of her more than he ever did, and this triggers feelings of insecurity and perhaps even guilt. I'm reminded of Meadows' boyfriend, Finn Durr something, and when he gets one over Tony by paying for dinner and it sends Tony irate, something we discussed in another video. Irina also is preparing food for Zellman, and he tells her to go easy on the mayonnaise, essentially ordering her about in front of Tony, to which Tony reacts with a face. Of course, there's nothing untoward in Zellman's behaviour, but that's not how Tony would interpret it. It's like Zellman owns Irina now, and Tony feels emasculated, so he immediately adopts a more aggressive stature, dominating Zellman in the conversation, telling him he has to do something about the squatters, then tapping him on the cheek like a child. It's like in Tony's mind, Zellman has got one over him and he has to re-establish dominance and control. And that's what the beatdown is. It's him asserting dominance in the most primal and visceral fashion. He even says to him, go ahead, cry like a bitch. It's the nature of the beatdown as well. He doesn't go at him with his fists, he beats him like a dad disciplining a child. It's pure humiliation, and there was nothing he could do. Tony was a made man and the Assemblyman wasn't. He had to sit still and take it. What's so infuriating is that Zellman and Irina clearly had something good going. It was a genuine relationship, something good, wholesome and healthy, and then Tony comes along to ruin it. Whatever he might say to her, deep down he prefers Irina being obsessed with him, as implied by the caressing of her face while she looks like she wants to jump in his arms. It's then that he walks out, as if he's thinking, the balance is all right now, she's back to wanting me. He simply couldn't take it that Irina had developed a proper relationship with someone else when she was nothing more than a squeeze for him. Zellman made Irina happy and they had a healthy relationship, and that's not something Tony was able to achieve with her. Maybe now he realizes there was more to her, to them together, and he's missed out. It wasn't even an affair for Zellman. He was already separated, so this was all above board. Irina had moved in with him. I wonder if Tony sincerely didn't care and was happy for them when Zellman gave him the news because he dismissed it as a fling. But when he saw Irina face to face and saw that she was content, she was growing as a person, she was integrating into society and becoming independent thanks to the Assemblyman. She didn't feel like a hooer anymore, which was one of her issues when she was with Tony. She went from falling apart and trying to off herself because Tony left her to being on the up. And he couldn't take it. It started eating away at him. Much like how he couldn't take Janice improving, so brings up Harpo at Sunday dinner. He messes with Christopher and his sobriety. He corrupts Bobby's soul by making him do his first hit. Irina had become the happy wanderer that Tony despises. Why should she be allowed to be happy when he isn't? He puts Zellman in his place here, but he also puts Irina back in hers, as the broken floozy buried in the immigrant class who is summoned by him for sex. One could argue Tony is trying to show Irina, in his twisted way, that he still has feelings for her, but because he's a toxic person, he does so by lashing out at innocent people. However, this is not in any way one of Tony's good moments, as some fans have unfortunately mistaken it to be. Sure, Zellman was playing with fire by shitting where Tony eats, as Mr. Type A personality might put it, but Tony isn't doing the right thing here, even if he's convinced himself he is. If you think it's an alpha moment and he's sorted out Zellman for breaking the bro code, you probably need to book a few sessions with Dr. Milfy yourself. All of these elements discussed lead to the conclusion that Zellman is a better man than Tony. Better for Irina at the very least, as symbolized by the close-up shot being held of the Assemblyman's license plate. There can only be one, and he is now number one. And though it's possible Irina latched on to Zellman initially because he was rich and powerful, the relationship has become something more than it ever was with Tony. Buried deep inside, Tony will know this, and there's an element of self-loathing in his beating of Zellman. All the women he dates end up being crazy in some way, as he laments to Melfi. He can't hold a solid, wholesome relationship with the likes of Irina, not because of her, but because of him, as proven by the fact that Irina has moved on and now has a good relationship with another man who is treating her well. This woman who put up with his crap is now devoted to another man. And there's no way for Tony's ego to rationalize all this except childily lash out and bully Adriana's new man for making him feel like a failure, something he often clings to in moments of desperation, like when he brings up to Carmela a fight he won in his youth which impressed her at the time after the fisticuffs with Bobby, whatever happened there. He wants to show Irina that he's strong, masculine, the kind of man she needs. Yeah, he's taking care of you, but he can't look after you if someone like me comes along and does this to him. This is apex Tony Soprano, spanking a half-naked, middle-aged man in his bedroom who can't fight back as his woman watches on. It's interesting that when Tony screws someone over, he usually covers it up with some lame business or rational reasons. Bringing up Harpo, for example. He says he's the boy's uncle and has a right to know where he is, when we all know he couldn't give less of a shit if he was constipated. He could have done that here. He could have accused Zellman of leaking information to New York, which he later suspects him of doing when speaking with Johnny Sack. He could have accused him of not doing enough to stop the Columbus Day protest. But he doesn't try to hide it here. He straight up tells him, all the woman in Jersey, you had to fuck this one. He absolves himself of any excuse, even adding, I'm perfectly calm. Meaning we can't even justify his actions by saying he saw red and was just really angry and emotional. The song that comes on, emphasizing the singer's love for a woman, obviously brings up emotions, but the precise moment that Tony actually chooses to turn the car is at the lyric, all my friends call me a fool. Whether intentional from the showrunners or not, I think that's a brilliant showcase that Tony might coat this situation as pain for letting Irina go and he still has feelings for her, but really it's about his own insecurity. But there's also someone else we have to consider regarding this whole saga. Gloria. Tony had genuine feelings for her, but their relationship ended with arguments, physical abuse, and Gloria eventually offed herself. Tony's relationship with Irina ends in a similar fashion. Maybe as Tony tears up in the car, it isn't Irina he's thinking about, but Gloria, and thinking about how much love Zellman is giving Irina. Had he given Gloria the same kind of love, maybe she would still be around now. And he resents Zellman for being able to give it to Irina, and when the song comes on, he starts to feel all sentimental and sorry for himself. This video is getting a bit long now, so I'll stop soon, but there's a few more points I wanted to mention. There's a lot of evidence that Tony has paternalistic feelings towards Irina. Him calling her a sweet kid and saying to Zellman, what am I, her father? Tony was introspective enough to know that Irina's attraction to men like him and Zellman would be partially inspired by her losing her own father at an early age and being abused by her uncle. He acknowledges to Melfi something similar about Adriana, that he knows she's attracted to him in part because her own father ran off and there's daddy issues there. Perhaps then, Tony felt that Zellman, an older man, was exploiting Irina, and by extension, he's admitting to himself it's what he also did. Thus, he hates Zellman for it, but he also hates himself for it. Tony had also given up Irina with the idea that she would settle down with someone closer to her own age, not another older influential man. If Irina hooked up with Jamal Hindenburg or someone, he probably wouldn't have minded, but she's essentially hooked up with another competitor, a rival, seeing as though Zellman is in a similar age and influence bracket as Tony, and the Assemblyman has the upper hand by being a respected member of the community, something Tony resents and wants to be a part of himself, but when he tries, he gets treated like a zoo animal by the boys at the country club. He would harbour an unconscious jealousy of the Assemblyman, added by the fact that he would think Ronald is no better than him, really. He is corrupt, but he presents himself as an upstanding citizen. He'd be itching to beat up Zellman, and Zellman just gave him a reason to show Irina, show himself, show the Assemblyman that Ronald isn't so much better than he is. One other thing I wanted to mention is this small exchange at Maurice's office between him and the Assemblyman. It can be seen as a juxtaposition to Tony's dealing with the Assemblyman. The two former revolutionists have a small issue about the copper and the 7K, but they patch things up and talk it out like men. They deal with their problem. Tony, on the other hand, instead of making his feelings known, instead of doing the decent thing and talking it out with Zellman, bottles his feelings up and later explodes at the Assemblyman. Hold on to your belt when you negotiate with these desert people. So it's not manly and brave at all. A man would have done what Zellman did to Tony. Go right up to the guy you have an issue with and make your feelings known. Tony instead acts like an immature bitch. So there you have it. What did you make of Tony's whipping of the Assemblyman? And why do you think he did it? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel and thanks for watching.